If it's too strong, you can spit it.
No, it's not too strong. I love Jamaican food, so I can stand it.
Oh, well, then you're.
I'm good. Trying to think back of some of. Oh yes, okay. Going back to the Birchton,
Mhm.
I can remember my mom, because my dad worked in coal mines, and my mom having a garden in the spring when they would hire somebody to come and plow up the ground to make that garden. That was exciting. Um, Being with my mom out planting things, and that's another thing. The smell of of the earth is that's another wonderful smell. I can still today smell that. Going back to the racial makeup of it, we did have white neighbors, and we had no clue. I said the children didn't go to school. I wasn't aware of that the children were not going to the same school because I was so little. I'm talking about 4 and 5 years of age. So we did have white neighbors, and we played together. We ate at each other's house. I don't know if we, had sleepovers or anything. I don't remember that. But I do remember going over and having, I saw people that lived on the coal camps know, having biscuits and gravy. They would come to our house and eat, and playing together in the yard, that type of thing. A lot of people are amazed when other places I have been, when I talk about West Virginia and the area where I lived, that blacks and whites did commingle that way. A lot of people, and especially when I talk about that part of it, which happened also in Mount Hope with our neighbors. We had white neighbors, and we played together, and my husband and his best friend was a white kid, and they were just buddies. They didn't go to school together, but after school, they were the best of friends.
In
Which
Mount
is
Hope?
unique. Yes, in Mount Hope. And going back to Birchton, that experience also happened there.
So you had two older brothers.
I had two older brothers that were in school.
Did they
Older.
remember the coal camp that way
Oh,
too?
yes. Oh, yes. In fact, one of my older brothers was saved by a white kid. He had gone to get a Christmas tree for Christmas, and he was up on this cliff, and he had the Christmas tree up and calling my mother, and I can remember the accident when it was happening, but he has this Christmas tree, and he said, Mom, look at the tree, and he slips and he falls over that cliff, and I'm trying to remember the white guy's teenager. I don't know if it was bumpers, but anyway, he ran and ran across the creek, and got my brother and got him home and my brother was bleeding in his legs, and he put that tourniquet on him to stop the blood until they could get the doctor to come. At that time, the doctor came to your house. The doctor, you didn't go to the hospital. And this is another, talking about doctors, this is another story with me, myself. I was born premature at home. And when I tell this story to people, they, what? I was almost 8 months, but I was born prematurely, a twin. The twin, my brother did not make it, but I did. And my grandmother put me in not a bassinet, but a drawer from the chest of drawers. She made like a little bassinet out of that and put it over by the window where the sun came in. And I guess that was my incubator. And this was in July. I was born July 10th, 1939. And I survived being born home as a preemie by a midwife. Amazing story. I always tell everybody God meant for me to be here for a reason. I did survive that. Yes. Yes. And another interesting story on that, on my birth certificate, for a long time, they had me down as having been deceased, the same as my brother. So I have two birth certificates, one where I'm deceased and then another one where I'm alive. So another interesting story coming over from Birchton. Yes.
So it must have been about the end of the war when you
Yes.
finally started school in Mount Hope.
Yes. And like I said, I was 5 years old when we moved here, and then because back in those days you didn't have the pre-kindergarten and kindergarten like they do now. So that fall I was able to start school in Mount Hope, in a segregated school, yes, and that was Du Bois Elementary. But I'm going to backtrack a little bit and go to when we moved here. As I said, it was moving to a big city, and I can recall, the truck with all of our possessions trying to go up on this big hill, and, struggling to get up the hill because I lived on Colorado Street, and a lot of people call it Tennessee and some people call it Colorado Street, but it's the hill where the Du Bois High School was at the top of this hill, and our home was right below the high school. So we were right there where my siblings could walk to the school. And our property, there was an alley that divided where the house was and other properties, which some of that property was adjacent to Du Bois High School lawn. It was on the hillside. So that was another good experience for us coming to Mount Hope, to the city.
And walking across the yard to school.
Yes,
Yeah,
they
the
walked,
boys.
and we had sidewalks made out of concrete. We had roads and stores that were right here in our little city. So it was a great experience, even though I was just a little 5-year-old. It was really something. I felt like my parents really had provided something fantastic for us, which they had. We had moved up.
Was that at the time of your dad's injury that happened?
My dad's injury happened after we were here in Mount Hope. Yes.
So he worked a few years here in the mine.
In the mines, yes, a few years here. And that's another interesting story too, because my dad, having moved us to Mount Hope, he had to stay in Birchton to work because he couldn't travel back and forth every day to go to work. So he came home on the weekends, and every Sunday evening he would come home on the bus until he bought a car. But he would come home on the Greyhound bus and would have to go back on Sunday evening so he could go to work. What he did, I didn't know this at the time, but later on from conversations, he bought a trailer, like a little, I don't know if it was a trailer or what do they call those things, the little shack that coal miners lived in, the little one-room shack thing. What did they
On the rails, you mean?
No, when coal miners, they have one over in New River Park. Shanty.
Shanty.
It's shanty. I don't know if it was a shanty, maybe it was shanty, and then later on he may have bought a trailer to live in, because I have one of my older brothers, after he graduated from school, he worked a short while over with my dad in the coal mines, the only one of the siblings that did work in the coal mines. So he did work there for a short while. But going back to the move here, when we came to Mount Hope, we were blessed to have a bathroom with a bathtub and a toilet, a flushing toilet. And we also had, that was upstairs, and also on the first floor, there was a little half with bathroom with a toilet in it. And my mom was able to put her washer, the Ringel washing machine was back there, where she ran the water out of that machine into the toilet, and she had running water. She did not have to go outside and pump water into a pail from the pump outside. We had running water in this house, which was like a mansion to us. And we had the two, my sister and I, we were able to share a bedroom together. We didn't have to share with our brothers, because over in Birchton, all the children were in one room. We had, the boys had a bed, and the girls had a bed, but we were in the same room together. At Mount Hope, we had our own bedroom, and the boys had their own bedrooms, which, you know, it's like moving from a little shack into this mansion to us, because we had upstairs and downstairs. Oh yes, and we had a furnace that provided heat. We didn't have that little old coal type of stove they had, and then fireplace. I think we had a fireplace over there, and then this little heating stove that we don't provide. But we actually had a furnace down in the basement, which allowed us to have heat all over our house. So we really had moved into a mansion.
What a story.
And that's the type of thing that I tell everybody, just think the coal mines provided that for us. And when I talk to other people that lived in different parts of the South that were black, and wow, you were rich. Well, we were not rich, but our Father was able to provide things for us that a lot of other, not just black, but black and white children did not get. So we did well. And as I said, later on, he was able to purchase a car when he had his house. And I don't know if they paid for that house outright. I think they did, because I don't remember any discussion about a mortgage. I think he had enough money where he paid outright for the house. Which is just, I think about my dad's foresight, you know, the type of thought that he had. He wanted to do better, and he did do better. My mother did not have to work. She was able to stay home and raise her children. And a lot of people did not have that. That was another blessing, and to have the wonderful mother we had.
What was her name?
Mary Bell. And I didn't give you my dad's name, James Edward Leonard. My mother, Mary Bell Mitchell Leonard. And I'm mentioning the Mitchell part because my mom's father, he was Methodist, A.M.E. Zion Methodist minister. He and his brothers, they were all in A.M.E. Zion Methodist ministry.
was that?
My grandfather lived over in McDowell County, over in Gary, West Virginia, and his brothers, they were down in Bristol, Tennessee. My grandfather and my grandmother migrated from Tennessee to West Virginia. My father migrated from Kentucky into West Virginia, all because of coal mining. That's how they all came here. Excuse me. Going back to our move and in this wonderful house we lived in, we had in our backyard, we had apple trees, we had plum trees, peach, cherries, trying to think what else was back there. We had raspberries, gooseberries. The property had, remember I said there was an alleyway that went between the property that was divided. So on one side of it, my mom was able to have her garden, raise all different kinds of vegetables and that type of thing, and then we had the fruit trees. At one time, when we first came, they even had pigs. They had pigs to raise. And chickens, I forgot, we had chickens right here in Mount Hope, West Virginia. So it was quite a large piece of property to have all of that on it.
Your dad, what a guy he was.
Yes.
To figure all that out.
To figure that out. And then we had, were able to have our wonderful pet dog. So we had a dog. I had one of the chickens as a pet until they decided chicken pet was going to be eaten at dinner time, which I couldn't eat him. I didn't eat the meat that day when they served up my pet. Oh, those are some really sweet memories when you think about those type of things. This is another interesting thing. You know, when newcomers come to a new community, the children in that community, they are going to find out, you know, what all those kids are. And I can remember one of my husband's classmates saying, you know, all over town is, oh, there's a new family and they have lots of children, lots of kids. So they all were coming to see what was there. And I can recall some of the bullies, believe it or not, at that time, these were some bullies, black bullies, that were going to fight my brothers. And the word had gotten out that they were going to come up. And my mother, she was such a wonderful mother. She told my brothers what to do. And there was a log, a big log, and she had them gather up rocks to put behind this log. So if other boys were going to jump on them, they were to throw the rocks. So they had formulated this tactic of getting rid of the bullies. And it did happen. After that, then they became friends with everybody, and everybody, you know, were the best of friends after they found out that you couldn't bully the Leonard boys. That was not going to occur. Nobody knew that my mom had given them that plan, though. So,
she wanted to keep that very quiet.
oh, yes. She was wonderful. She always taught us things to do, to defend ourselves, you know. And she had a clan, so she had to provide us information on how to survive out there. But there wasn't a lot of that in this little community. That's why I said when you think back on it, you know, you didn't have too much of it. But, of course, children are children, and they're going to do things to see who's the best. And then they formulate friendships. Not like today. You know, once you got that fight over, and then you had friendships. I don't recall any of us females having to do that. No, we didn't go through that. And the younger brothers didn't. And we did have, after we came here, my mother had at home, she had 2 more children that were born after we came.
Two more.
2 more that were born at home. My youngest brother and baby sister, they were born at home here in Mount Hope, where the doctor came to the house to. She didn't have a midwife; she had a doctor. So we had moved up again on that. It was a doctor and not a midwife. So.
But you didn't have any trouble making a whole circle of new friends. It sounds like that all came along.
That came on.
Pretty
And I was so little when I started school, you know, was everybody at that time. That was the incident with the bullying type of thing. That was with the 2 boys in high school. The younger ones, we did not have to have that experience. Now, I can remember the first day of school, starting the little black school. At that time, it was segregated. The little black school, Du Bois Elementary, was down on the creek bank. I don't know if you all have had an opportunity to look around Mount Hope, but where the high school is located, the railroad tracks you cross to go to the high school, well, on the opposite side of the high school, there was a little elementary school there for the black kids. And the first day of school, we all walked together, but there was a way where you could go and walk down the railroad track to get to the school, or you could go down a little alleyway and cross over on a log to go to that school. And the kids all walked down the alleyway to cross on the log to go to the school. And when I look at the creek now, you know, it's this little creek, but the little kid that's 6 years old started school, it was like an ocean. To me, I was terrified. And I can recall my sister, my wonderful sister who looked out for me from the time I was born. On the other side, she had crossed over and she kept saying, "Come on, I got you. Come on, don't be afraid." And I was just terrified, but because she said, "Come on, I got you," I ran across and she was waiting there to catch me, you know, and grab me in her arms. So I crossed that log to start school, terrified. And I think back now, oh, God was with these kids, because how many could have drowned crossing that log? But we didn't have fear of that at all.
So you got to school.
So I got to school and had a terrible experience the first day, because the teacher wanted me to be named my mother. She kept calling me Mary, and I kept saying, "My name is not Mary, my name is Kathleen." My mom had taught me how to spell my name, write my name. I spelled my name for her. "No, your name is Mary." And I would, "No, I'm Kathleen, Kathleen. "No, are you dumb? Your name is Mary. How dumb can you be?" Now, some other child may have cowered under that, but not this one. No, I kept it, and I wrote my name out for her, took it up to her. "This is my name. Your name is Mary." And of course, I knew what to do when I got home. You know, told my mother, and of course, my mother got that straight. You know, she did. That day.
That day and hour.
That day, she visited the teacher's house, yes. But that was the only bad experience I had. Well, that wasn't the only one, because getting there was a bad experience. And having to fight for my name was another experience. But it was a happy experience because I wanted to go to school. I wanted to be like the older ones, which children normally are that way. I wanted to go to school because my sister was going to school and my older brothers were going to school. So I wanted to go to school. Yes, and although it was segregated, like I tell people, I had no clue. I did not know I was being mistreated. I did not know I was getting something that was not good. To me, it was good. And they had the outdoor toilets. We went to the outhouse at school. I didn't realize that it wasn't a good thing, you know. I had my toilet that flushed at home. So you don't think about those things. There was, you could get lunch, or you could take your lunch. And as I said, my husband, his experience, oh, you ate lunch at school? Didn't you eat lunch at school? No, I didn't eat lunch at school. What are you talking about? He would say, sometimes I didn't even eat lunch. And this is information I got as an adult. I thought all the children did the same thing I did. And on occasions, you know, we did eat lunch at school, and sometimes we took the bag lunch, which at that time they were in brown paper bags. They didn't have lunch boxes. Some people may have, but I don't recall any of us having those.
Was your husband at the same school you were?
My husband, he was ahead of me. Of course, you know, my husband was in the last graduating class of Du Bois, 1956. He was in that last class. I was friends. They lived not too far from us, you know, in the back of us, and I was friends with the sisters. We played together, and but being back in those days, the girls played with the girls and the boys played with the boys, you know, that type of thing. So as an adult later on, my husband would tease me. He says, "I don't remember you at all. I don't remember you," but he was just playing. Yes.
I would imagine you would strike him in the same unforgettable way that you do everybody else.
Yes, playing with his sisters, and he did. He did. My older sister, he did like her quite a bit and wanted to date her, but she didn't want to date him. He told me later she didn't want to date him. She was dating another more glamorous young man that happened to be one of the teacher's sons, so he didn't have a chance. But getting back to the wonderful experience, we attended that school until it burned, and later years they're saying that the parents had something to do with that fire, as they did with the old Du Bois High School. But anyway, after that, they did build the school for the black kids up in Kessler Holler, which my husband's mother gave them the property to build that house on, that school on. But in that little school on the creek bank, we had a lot of good things to happen. I can recall at Christmas time, you know, having Christmas programs, they had those old real movies, Shirley Temple